So, Wildcard just announced that they will be TLC in 4 OG vanilla creatures, which if you didn't know, TLC means tender loving care, a process that many older creatures received many years ago. These 4 creatures will receive a makeover, changes, and maybe even new abilities, so it is a very exciting time for us ARK players. They are running this in a unique way this time around, so instead of hosting a 24-hour extra live stream this year and giving everyone incredibly boosted rates, we can still donate to children in need, just like previous extra life charity streams, while also voting for a creature that we want to see receive a TLC in the future. I really like this idea as both the kids and ARK players are benefiting from it. Anyway, as stated in the post, this list of creatures here are not eligible as they previously received TLC updates over the last 10 years. The creature must be a creature that spawns on the island map, must be tameable, rideable, or a shoulder pet. To vote and donate, you will need to find the Studio Wildcard team on the Extra Life website, along with a bunch of other members that you can also donate to that are also included in their team. When donating, be sure to select add a message in the box, enter a hashtag and the full creature or dinosaur name. It does have to be the full name of the creature to guarantee that your vote counts. Wildcard do give a small list of examples on their Community Crunch post. Every $1 donated will count for 1 vote to that creature. But for example, if you donate $10, that will amount to 10 votes for that creature. It is recommended to donate separately if you are wanting to vote more than 1 creature. The results will be announced each week throughout November. Links to the Extra Life donation page and ARK's Community Crunch are in the description of the video. Anyway, with that being said, here is my top 10 creatures that I'd like to see a TLC for. They are in order of preference, so my top 4 are the creatures I want to see a TLC for the most. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Kicking off our list is the Allosaurus, which for me the model does look great, so I don't think it needs changing there. It would be nice to give it some new sounds though. There is a lot of creatures in the game, but for me the Allo has some of the worst sounds in the entire game. I'm not really a fan of its running animations or its attack animations, and when attacking it looks like a jack-in-the-box popping up and down. Seeing these improved upon would definitely make me want to tame them more often. Its fighting capability is also below par, having only a regular bite attack that deals average damage at best, and when in a group of 2 or 3 the highest level will become the Alpha and can inflict a nasty bleed effect to drain the target's health. I would personally like it to have a slightly higher base damage, maybe a similar temporary speed boost like the Carco with each kill it performs. Give it access to the perks of pack buffs going from +1 to 3 in a group to improve their damage output and damage resistance, and give it a secondary attack of some sort. A tailspin attack might be a sweet addition for the Allo, or even a directional bite where it pulls a 180 to attack anything behind it, which deals slightly more damage than the regular bite. For me, it's only slightly better than the Carno and nowhere near as strong as a Rex, so I'll always skip taming an Allo entirely. In the number 9 is the Mosasaurus. Surprisingly very low on my list, but this is due to the lack of ocean exploration on most maps. But there is no denying that the Mosasaurus is in desperate need of TLC, and also the Plesiosaur, but I did not include that here as I didn't want to include more than 1 aquatic creature. The Mosasaurus model isn't as bad as some, however it is super outdated, doesn't look very refined, and has some strange mohawk going on or something. The Paleo ARK team have created a beautiful version of the Mosa, but mods are mods and not everyone has the option to use them. This mod is the perfect example as to what would make a great TLC for the Mosa. My problem is the Mosa is typically depicted as the king of the ocean, therefore I feel like it needs to be feared much more in ARK. It should be more powerful or on the same level as the Tuso. It desperately needs some new attacks and animations. The Tuso can grab creatures with its tentacles, so why can't the Mosa do the same with its mouth, crunching down on its prey to inflict a bleed attack over time or something like that? Giving it a smaller turning radius would also be a dream. And of course immunity to the jellyfish stun and dismount. There is no way a tiny jellyfish should be able to impair a giant beast like the Mosa. Taking the number 8 spot is the Diplodocus, which was an obvious pick for me. It is a large sauropod, outdated design, looks super ugly and derpy. It looks like a plesiosaur but on land, and we all know the plesiosaur is butt ugly. It can gather berries well and has a decent running speed, but that is about it. It may have some use in PvP, but my question is why would you ever tame one in PvE? It doesn't even deal damage, which is still mind-boggling to me. It boasts a saddle with a whopping 10 passenger seats, which sounds cool on paper, but let's be honest, no one has 10 friends that play this game with them. It needs to be able to deal damage with its primary attack, which should be a decent amount at that. Its model needs a complete makeover, new animations, and also give it some new sounds too, as it sounds like an old man snoring. It would be nice to have an additional tail swipe attack like the Bronto. Frontal or rear stomp attacks would be a welcomed addition. It desperately needs some love in all departments. So for my number 7 spot, I would have 100% picked the Palovia, but of course it does not meet the voting requirements as it cannot be ridden, and I really wanted the Palovia to receive a TLC one day, mainly because I want it to be rideable. Anyway, I subbed it out for the Megalania, which is another creature in desperate need of a model upgrade and some new abilities. It can latch onto walls and ceilings, which is cool, however that is pretty much all it can do. It's slow, deals measly damage, and has a lack of abilities. It can inflict mega rabies to players, and the rider is said to be immune. However, this doesn't seem to be the case, as I've always contracted mega rabies as the rider every time I use it, so that needs to be fixed for a start. I think they should have a pounce attack when latched similar to the Philocolio, give them the same base damage as say the Sabertooth, and a passive ability when inside caves that slightly further increases their melee damage output and damage resistance. It would also be cool to give them some sort of toxic bleed attack that it can inflict to targets, and I think these changes would make them much more appealing. In at number 6 is the Giga. Of course, I would have stuck this much higher on my list as I do think it is in desperate need of TLC regarding the model, but as a PvE player they aren't as desirable as most of these creatures on the list. Or at least for me it isn't. I rarely ever tame the Giga. It's super outdated, and when you compare it to the Paleo version of the Giga, it is like a night and day difference. This version of the Giga is stunning, and I would love for the in-game Giga to look something like this. There's not really a lot you could change about the Giga. Its purpose is to chomp and only chomp, and it is the best damage dealer in terms of base damage, so there is a fine line where if they add too much to it, could pose a risk of making it too strong. It really just needs a total remodel in my opinion. Giving it some new animations and sounds would also be a nice touch. With all that being said, I'd be extremely surprised if the Giga doesn't win one of these top 4 votes. Only just missing out on my top 4 is going to be the Carno, and I'm going to be honest, I have a lot of love for the Carno and use them quite frequently. However, it's no secret that they still need a bit of love. I'm actually really surprised that they were still eligible, as they did receive a small TLC a very long time ago in July 2020, which added a bleed attack and an armor penetration bonus with the primary attack. I would love to see the model receive a bit of love. It's not the worst by any means, but it could definitely use some fine tuning. The rider should also be able to wield their weapons when mounted. It'd be nice to give it some new directional bite attacks, new sounds and animations. So I thought long and hard about which creature I'd pick for my 4th spot, and surprisingly I came up with the Megalosaurus, out of nowhere. Oh man, I love him. An absolute powerhouse if used on aberration or at night time. So maybe you're questioning why I would put them on a list like this. Well, why not? This one is more of a want than a need, but I can guarantee you that my top 3 desperately need this TLC update. I actually really like the way it looks, but I still think it could be improved upon a little. I really like its nocturnal behavior. I'd like them to receive some new animations. It would be very cool to see them yawning every so often while asleep, for example. I do think the players should be able to wield their weapons when mounted, as it is quite a small dino when compared to some that allow the player to do this. They should rework the taming process, and it should be a passive tame of some sort rather than a knockout tame, and I know a lot of people probably want it to be a tame they can use throughout the daytime. I actually prefer it as a nocturnal predator. It is what makes it unique, shall we say. Speaking of, it would be nice to give them a Night Stalker-like buff, where it can select a target to attack, and will then deal extra damage to that target for a duration of time. Maybe even give it a night vision type ability. I'm just throwing out ideas that I'd like to see for a nocturnal predator. Any of these ideas would make for welcomed additions. Moving on to the top 3, we now have the Brontosaurus, which is the second largest sauropod on the island, and the best for gathering large amounts of berries in one single tail swipe. But in PvE, that is pretty much all it has going for it. It's super sluggish, less maneuverable than a bus, and overshadowed by other quicker berry harvesters with more ability and utility. The model feels extremely outdated and needs a lot of love. It would be nice to give it some extra attacks like frontal and rear stomps. Maybe a bit of weight reduction for say something like berries would be nice, maybe some thatch and wood too. I believe it should deal more damage and knockback with its attacks. It is an absolute giant, yet a level 80 Rex can easily take down 3 mate boosted Brontos without a scratch. Admittedly, it has a lot more use in PvP due to its large health pool and ability to equip a platform saddle, which even that and every other platform saddle in the game looks super outdated. I'd like its base movement speed to be increased slightly, but say once you equip the platform saddle, it returns back to its current speed in the game, so carrying the extra weight of the platform saddle will weigh it down to balance things out. The Diplodocus mod is a perfect example of a great looking platform saddle for a giant herbivore. Another thing to note is that it does have the ability to pivot on the spot, giving it much better maneuverability, which is a feature I'd love the Bronto to have. I believe this is the Bronto's time to shine. Taking the number 2 spot is none other than the Pachy, a creature I've wanted to see a TLC for since the early days of the game, and is one that I'm not confident in the slightest has a chance of winning the votes, but hey, this is all just my opinion. So the Pachy has one use and one use alone. It can be tamed as an early game knockout taming aid, as its charge attack deals 3.5 times torpor of damage dealt to targets, which admittedly can be very useful in the early stages of the game, but sadly that is its only use. It can't even harvest berries to feed itself. Adding a secondary attack to harvest berries would be sweet. Maybe give it some small damage reduction to melee attacks from carnivores. Give it the ability to harvest small amounts of resources from rocks like the Yankee due to it having a strong head. This would be a great alternative for your early game resource gathering needs, due to the Doedicurus and Anklo typically spawning in dangerous areas, which can make these creatures difficult to obtain for newer players. Give it a higher base weight stat, and small weight reductions for stone, flint and metal. It also needs an appearance polish up, as it does look pretty outdated, and also make it slightly larger, as it is way too small. Even my guy is larger than the Pachy. The Sticky mod is a perfect example of what I'd like the in-game Pachy to be like. Able to harvest berries with a secondary tail swipe attack, and is a great early game mount for harvesting metal, flint and small amounts of stone. And the creature I'd most want to see a TLC for is none other than the Quetzal. With creatures like the Argentavis receiving a huge TLC back in the day, it basically made the Quetzal useless ever since. It definitely has more uses in PvP, but yes, it is a giant flyer, extremely rare, pretty difficult to tame when compared to the Argentavis, that is exponentially better in every way. It's slow, a wimp, and its model looks super outdated. And when comparing it to every image I've seen online, the Quetzal looks super intimidating, especially when walking, which is not the case for the in-game Quetzal, which looks like it is slouching around when landed. I'd love to see it receive a complete model overhaul. It's lacking in detail and refinement, and of course if it was redesigned it might require a new platform saddle design too. That is if they do change its posture when landed. I reckon they should be aggressive or neutral in the wild. Maybe they can occasionally make their way to land to hunt for food, or to scare the living daylights out of survivors minding their own business on the ground. And I know it just received a tiny 15% movement speed boost, but for me that is not enough. History has it down as one of the fastest flyers that ever existed, and even rumored to be an apex predator of the skies, and it is neither in ARK. I actually think it should be slightly slower than the Rhinoanapha, and maybe have a similar feature to the Bronto once equipping a platform saddle, which will decrease its movement speed to balance things out once equipped, increase its bite attack damage by 50%, give it a secondary attack where it can pick up small to medium creatures in its beak to either carry them or eat them whole. A great example of this would be the Hatzegopteryx mod, which also has the perfect landing and walking animations that the Quetzal should have. But of course, this is all just my opinion and ideas I would love to see these creatures receive. So yeah, that's going to be the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and please do comment, let me know if you agree or if you disagree. I'd love to hear what creatures you voted for and what changes you'd like to see implemented. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.